And Ryan, I guess this whole thing is a little bit of la entrevista or the interview, but one of the other reasons we have you on is that you are the lead writer for Man City for The Athletic, where we have Kevin Williams on a lot. He is the main Barcelona writer, but you cover Man City, so we definitely want to pick apart some of those connections and get under the hood of some of that. So I think the perfect place to start with talking about Man City, obviously, is the guy on the sidelines, and that's Pep Guardiola. And we don't have to talk too much about his time at Bayern Munich, which was the transitionary period, but how do you think Pep has changed from his time on the Barcelona sidelines to now what you're seeing at Manchester?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it depends on how you view how other teams have changed and how his personnel have changed as well, because maybe the passing has to be a bit more direct these days. Maybe other teams are counter-attacking a bit more these days. It changes the way that Pep's system would work. I think, definitely still very possessive, definitely still very aggressive with Man City, as he has been with his past two clubs. I wonder if there's more and more of the direct play from the wings. There's this classic Man City goal. I mean, the West Ham game last week, they must have tried this 20 times, where the play comes in from the wings. You've got either it was Sterling or Bernardo on one of the wings coming in, pulling the ball right to the goal and having someone try and tap it in. And I think we saw a lot of that at Bayern as well, with Robben and Ribéry taking advantage of them on the wings. And I feel like I see that more often than I used to see that at Barcelona. I think a bit less tiki-taka, a bit less sideways passing, a bit more direct, a bit more wing play. And I think I see him playing the ball out from the back, obviously a central tenet of Pep's system, but I maybe see him taking it to new heights with Ederson, just because Ederson is such an extraordinary goalkeeper with the ball at his feet. The risks he takes with the most casual expression on his face, they're incredible. The kind of passes he's playing, I couldn't imagine Valdez or anyone else making, or Neuer at Bayern Munich, making these kind of risque passes that he does, and it's beautiful to watch, and I just love it. I think Ederson is a fantastic goalkeeper, and I think the system, the way that the City players have taken to this system, is wonderful as well.
Now, speaking of that Man City recruitment, the one guy that people seem to forget in all of this, how important was the recruitment of Txiki Begiristain to Man City? I mean, he was in the front office of Barcelona, and now he's in the front. And the main guy, he is the technical director at Man City, and he has been for some time now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's the man you see smiling and taking the picture with the new players when they're signing their contracts and such. That's about the only time we see Begiristain in the public. But I think his importance cannot be disputed. I think the reason that City is so successful, they're so coherent, and that, probably that they've got Pep Guardiola right now is because of Begiristain and their prior relationship. I mean, he came into the club, I think 2012, quite a bit before Guardiola, but I think there's a couple of things he's done in that he's been perfect for bringing in the kind of players that come for an ideology, not just because they're a box office player or they're a talented player. They come with a clear vision of how the side wants to play. And he's made sure that City haven't turned into another PSG, buying the Neymars, buying the big names, not necessarily because of how they'd fit into the team or how the manager would like them, but because of, they'll sell shoes on shirts. So I think Begiristain's been very important there, and very important with the way he gets the players that Pep wants. And I think you can make a comparison with Man United as well. Look at the Man United team and the way that Ed Woodward has given sanctioned players for all the managers post Alex Ferguson. You've got this team which has got Ferguson centre backs, it's got Van Gaal players in it, it's got Mourinho players, it's got players that Mourinho rejected and have now been brought back in. All these sort of incoherent parts. And they've spent a lot of money. They probably spent equal, if not a little bit more than Man City. But they've got this team of parts that don't fit together as well as City's do. And I think City's players fit together because of someone like Begiristain at the helm.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the place that Man City on the field, oddly enough, have spent the most money over the last 2, 3, 4 seasons is at the fullback position. It seems like that's the one spot that they just don't have the recruitment, or they don't have the young players coming in, or even young players to supplement. And it's funny because you look in Barcelona paralleling that in the same way, where Juan Miranda is a teenager, but he's the nearest left back backup to Jordi Alba that Barcelona have at the moment. Nelson Semedo obviously had to be brought in. Sergio Roberto is a converted central midfielder. So Barcelona and Man City have the same way, that it seems that a left back, and even though Alba is now renewed, it seems like a left back is in Barcelona's future. And Now, speaking of those fringe players or bringing young players up through, there obviously is not only a belief but a truth that Begiristain does have a seat at the table still with some La Masia players. And so you look at the Barcelona exports, Eric Garcia was the best La Masia center back that the academy had to offer when he moved to Man City a few seasons ago, and Adrian Bernabé was most recently the attacking midfielder to move. And how have you seen their transition to England? Now, obviously, Eric Garcia's not only older, but a little closer to the first team as well. How have you seen those two players land in Manchester? And I guess, is there any hope that you could give out to Barcelona fans that they might find their way to Catalonia?
I think there certainly is some hope they might find their way back, because I'm not convinced either will end up in the starting 11 with City. Maybe they'll find their way back via Girona, but we'll see about that. But say with Eric Garcia, I mean, I'm not sure how high in the pecking order he is. Guardiola was very complimentary about him in the States last summer on the International Champions Cup tour, saying he plays well above his years. I think he's only 17 or 18, but he said he plays like he's in his mid-20s, and you could see how upset Barcelona fans were to see him go as well. But I think he's only played in the League Cup this season, possibly only that game against Burton. And I think some of the criticisms leveled at him is that he's not tall and he's not incredibly physical. I mean, he's got the ball playing skills, but he's not a John Stones or a Laporte in terms of his physicality, or even a Fabio Cannavaro if you're going to talk about a short defender. But he's versatile. Pep loves versatility, so that gives him a little bit, another arrow to his bow, so to speak. But I mean, Philippe Sandler, I think, he's competing with him, the Dutch youngster as well. And Sandler, I think, was on the bench against West Ham, whereas Garcia wasn't. So that suggests to me that he's not as high in the pecking order. As for Bernabé, I mean, I as you say, hasn't quite broken through even as much as Garcia has. And I think the problem with him, if he's going to ever get into the City midfield, is that City aren't short of quality midfielders, as you're probably quite aware. They've got a few. So, I mean, at his age, I know he's still a young teenager, but maybe if he was going to be fast-tracked, I'd expect him to have done more training with the first team, be a bit more involved in the ancillary competitions as well. So I could see them being the kind of players that might, get their loan off to Girona or another club, and maybe make a breakthrough in that kind of way. And I wouldn't by no means give up hope for Barcelona from coming home.
Now, you mentioned Girona in there, and so it seems like this is, again, another thing that sleeps in the back of my mind and only comes up occasionally, that Girona, when I watch them and when a lot of Culés watch them, particularly those in Spain, they find this kinship, obviously, with Girona, the other club now, Espanyol notwithstanding, because of the relationship between those two. But Girona seemingly is and they even have won polls online that they're the team that Barcelona fans root for secondary. They're the team that they represent Catalonia in a way that makes Culés proud. But how nervous should Barcelona fans be about City's relationship with Girona? And obviously now that City have a firm way, now it's global, so you can put your eyes and scouts everywhere. But if there's a club in Girona that has this direct connection and affiliation with Man City, that there's a thought, I think Culés as well say that, you could just Sergi Samper as he tries to recover from injury, or Alenya if they didn't believe that he was ready for the first team, you can loan them to Girona. But that's not the way it works. Girona's relationship is with Man City, not at all with Barcelona. So if Pedro Porro of Girona winds up becoming this superstar right back, there's a much better chance that City snatches him up than a Barcelona would.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, actually, and I think there's only 2 or 3 loanees from City at Girona this season, but they had more last season. And obviously, as you say, it's the strongest relationship there. I suppose you could look at it as the Etihad campus, as City's academy grows, their EDS grows, then you'll see more and more players going over there, and they're talking about changing the FIFA rules on loans, so it might not be loans, it might be straight up selling them to Girona in air quotes. But you could end up seeing maybe somewhere down the line direct competition, even more direct competition between City's academy and Barcelona's, in terms of City's academy will effectively be on Barcelona's doorstep with their products ending up in Catalonia at Girona.